Good evening, Dr. Laws. Tonight I will be providing you a presentation regarding the counseling efficacy assignment. As you know, I observed two master students as they conducted a mock counseling session with one another. My objective was to, or my goal more so, was to assess myself and critique myself for my supervision skills. How was I able to take decent progress notes and assess the students for their clinical skills, and were they able to apply their theoretical orientation, their flow of the clinical session, and just so on. So, my supervision model of choice is the humanistic, person centered, relationship oriented supervision model. And I picked that model because me personally, I just believe that I am a not only a person-centered person, but also a existential person in the same sense. Um, when working with these supervisees, the first initial goal is to establish a baseline of respect, so that with that given line of respect, when providing feedback, um, there is a rapport there. So it not only assists with the development and growth, but it also makes it a little bit easier on the supervisor to maneuver that such tricky information, because sometimes, as you know, when discussing with a with the counseling training, either a mistake or ways that they could adapt their clinical style, or maybe areas where they could have had stronger improvement in their method of facilitating the clinical session. Sometimes these could be tricky areas. Also, when working in this model, the objective is to also see how humanistic is this supervisee with their client. Do they have a decent positive regard for the client? Are they empathetic? Are they understanding? Are they too able to build a positive rapport to maybe lightly confront this potential client? Are they able to be authentic and genuine, so that way, when working with these clients, again, once you have that established rapport, it assists with facilitating the clinical session, the clinical environment. It has the potential to also help clients open up and allow the clinician to potentially help this client address any issues, or maybe any interventions that may assist with their development, speaking on the client's behalf. So, um, ideally, supervision is the same way. The objective is to build that relationship with the supervisee, in this case, the supervisees, and to assess their their clinical skills. So again, what I did was I went in, I introduced myself, of course, just, hey, how are you? Hope all is well. Asked if they needed any assistance. Did they feel prepared? They needed any, go to the restroom, water, time, just make sure they had everything established. I let them know um, who I was, what class I was in, my objective, why I was there, that being, just to observe them while also observing myself and my ability to deliver, good supervision skills and provide good clinical feedback, to potentially assist these students in developing their clinical skills. So each student conducted 50 to 60 minutes, and I sat there. I took really good notes, and I just not only observed again how they interacted with each other, but I looked at what was I seeing. Was I able to recognize any, if not errors, but any areas of improvement where there could have been a a further discussion within the clinical setting? So I'll very briefly just go over some of my observations with you. Some of the really good positive observations that I noticed were that the supervisees both were able to show really good support of each other. They each were able to build a decent rapport, and I thought that was a very positive interaction. Just for one, they seemed like they had a good rapport with each other. Each one introduced themselves. They provided an environment that did not seem intrusive. It did not seem combative. It allowed for each mock client to open up and to give good information that could assist the clinician with, again, facilitating this clinical environment and just going through the process and again expanding their clinical skills. So again, some of those key observations were just again the ability to discuss the general and specific purposes of the counseling process, good active listening skills, again, non-intrusive body language, and again, I think that helped build the rapport. Also, again, just genuineness and good positive regard. So a few areas for further development that I noticed, and again, this is in between both the students. I think that they were to establish a professional disclosure statement. I mentioned this to both of the students. This would help them with their opening flow of the clinical session, and ironically, I think this is something that I needed to do as well. And I'll get it and I'll explain that later in a second. But again, having the students develop this professional disclosure statement that talks about what is their theoretical orientation, and it will introduce to the clients again how they actually facilitate the clinical session and what is their intent as a clinician and how they tend to serve the potential client. Also, I thought that it was very important to just establish a way to analyze what the client is saying. I felt that sometimes both students, again, and maybe this could just be an entry-level thing, and me as an entry-level supervisor, but there was at times that the client would give them really good viable information, and sometimes they would just really just pass right over it. So, again, really taking heed what the client is saying, and again, holding true to that relationship and being able to either confront or feel comfortable with asking certain questions, specifically open-ended questions that would lead to more dialogue and, again, understanding of what the client is going through. Also, just being able to just paraphrase really well, work on using reflection. So again, just really reflecting on what the client is saying and just, again, showing that you're understanding, you're listening, and all these things just help build rapport, and it shows just a true genuineness and a person-centeredness to where, you are almost appreciating your client per se. And if appreciating may not be the right word, just showing that you are validating their feelings and their emotions, and I think that's a positive thing. So, hypothetically, to switch this on myself, which was again the objective of this observation, I immediately saw that I think I needed to explain to the students more about what humanistic, person-centered, relationship-oriented the supervision model is. I think that I mentioned it. It sounded like a lot of words, kind of how I just described it to you, and I kind of just went into the process. So I think, again, building that rapport and helping the students understand, my true purpose as a supervisor and how to build that relationship so that way when I talk about either errors or mistakes or if I give them accolades, that the rapport is good enough for growth and development. And also, just to protect the humanistic side of the clinician and to support them as they, enhance their clinical skills. So overall, it was a really good session. I do think it was slightly challenging. Well, not challenging, but providing feedback to two supervisees at the same time. I hope that it was not intrusive to either one of them. I asked them prior if they were comfortable with listening to feedback from each other. They were both given the opportunity to provide feedback to each other as well. Hear the feedback from me. I asked if they had any feedback for me, and they said that they felt that what I had suggested to them, or the feedback I gave to them, was decent, and they were appreciative. However, I do believe that I think that I possibly could have maybe used more clinical vocabulary. I do think that the humanistic side allowed me to be very personable, trying to build that rapport. So that, I think that's something that I could work on. Again, more clinical vocabulary, and again, just enhancing my skills as a supervisor. Um, Again, I appreciate the opportunity. It was very insightful, and I definitely know I learned a lot. And I think it'll be good for me to keep practicing, and eventually, trying out supervision more and more. Thank you. Have a good night.